Hey, sometimes in life, a misunderstanding can be no big deal. Like if I say to you, I'll meet you 10 a.m. for coffee next Monday, and I was thinking 10 a.m. next Monday, and you were thinking 10 a.m. tomorrow, and you rock up at the cafe, and I'm not there. It's just a misunderstanding, and it's no big deal, right? At least for me, because I didn't get stood up, you did. Sometimes in life, a misunderstanding can be a huge deal. So picture a young family heading down to the beach one day, and the swell is big. It's windy, it's unpredictable, it's rough. And they look out at the beach and they see this one spot on the beach that looks really calm. It looks really pleasant. It's like there's a break in the big waves on either side. And they go, well, the kids aren't very good swimmers. In fact, they can hardly swim at all. That looks like the safest place to be. Let's go in there. And they jump straight into a rip. That's a misunderstanding of how the ocean works, and that is a really big deal. This part of the Bible that we're looking at today addresses something about Christianity that is very misunderstood. This is misunderstood by non-Christians. And it's misunderstood even by some Christians. And I want to put it to you today that this particular misunderstanding is a big deal. It has big implications. There are big things at stake if we don't understand this properly. The thing that I'm talking about is faith. Faith. What is faith? How do you get it? Is everyone able to have faith? Are you born with it? Or is it a decision you make? What does faith feel like? What if I don't feel anything? Does that mean I don't have faith? Is faith the thing you have when you don't want to believe the facts? Is it like wishful thinking? I reckon if we walked the streets of Northern Rivers together and asked a bunch of locals these questions, there would be a huge variety in the answers we get back. There is confusion around this idea of faith. And the issue of faith comes up in our passage here because Jesus notices the particularly strong faith of a particular man. He's a centurion. It doesn't mean he scored 100 test runs. It just means that he is ruler over 100 men in the Roman army. He's a leader, he's successful, and he has a servant who's very sick, about to die. Let's pick it up in verse 3. If you haven't got a Bible, just Google this, Luke 7, starting at verse 3. The centurion heard of Jesus and sent some elders of the Jews to him, asking him to come and heal his servant. When they came to Jesus, they pleaded earnestly with him, "This man deserves to have you do this because he loves our nation and has built our synagogue." So Jesus went with them. And we'll pause there. You can see straight away there, this man is not a Jew. He's a Gentile. If you're new to these things, the word Gentile just means that. He's not a Jew. He's not part of the traditional people of God, the Israelite nation. But he's heard about Jesus. He's probably heard about the healing power of Jesus. He seems to have a good sense of who Jesus is. And the Gospel of Luke that we've been working through reveals this kind of thing a number of times, that this kind of thing where Jesus engages with a non-Jew. Now, when Jesus comes, he is coming to fulfill the prophetic hopes and expectations of Israel. But he's also coming to open the door for non-Israelite believers, people like this. Ephesians 2 says that Jesus has come to make one new humanity. Jews and Gentiles combined together as one new people of God. In the book of Acts, we get another story of a military man. He was a centurion as well. His name was Cornelius, very religious man, God-fearing man, but not a Jew, not an Israelite. I'll tell you a story. 3 o'clock one afternoon, Cornelius has a vision, a very distinct vision of an angel. And the angel tells him to go and see a man named Peter, a man he's never met. Now, the next day, this man, Peter, who is one of the 12 disciples, a Jewish man, Peter is praying and he gets his own vision, and it's a pretty wild one. There's a big sheet coming down from heaven, and inside the sheet is a bunch of wild animals. All kinds of animals. I told you it was a wild dream. These animals were unclean. That is religiously unclean. Peter, as a Jew, is not supposed to go anywhere near these kinds of animals, but he hears a voice commanding him to go and kill and eat these animals. And Peter's like a proper Jew. And so at first he's like, no way am I going near these animals. I'm not doing that. But the voice, which is the voice of God, insists again and again, Peter, kill, eat. Peter, you've smelt bacon for years. Mate, here is your chance. I'm telling you, go for it. Rip in. Cornelius the Gentile finds Peter the Jew, and they sit down together and they join the dots. They talk about their visions, and here's the conclusion. God is opening the door for Gentiles to be saved. The barrier between these two groups has been broken. The dividing wall of hostility has been broken by the peace that Jesus brings, and Jews and Gentiles now come together as one new humanity, one people of God. And the rest of the book of Acts tracks this spread of the gospel, this very inclusive gospel from Jerusalem out from there, breaking new ground further and further. And we are here on the Northern Rivers. You are here as part of a massive movement of God where the gospel of Jesus is on the move, unfolding across time, advancing across the planet, bringing more and more people into God's kingdom. Do you sense that you're a part of this? More and more different kinds of people are being brought into God's kingdom. The kingdom of God is incredibly inclusive. Luke, the author of our passage, is particularly passionate about making sure we understand this. Who does he highlight as he profiles the ministry of Jesus? He highlights the Jew and the Gentile, our guy here. The poor and the rich, the powerful and the weak, the insider and the outsider, the religious and the irreligious. The kingdom of God, listen to this, the kingdom of God is incredibly exclusive in that Jesus says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. There is only one way into the kingdom. But at the same time, the kingdom of Jesus is incredibly inclusive because that offer of salvation is available to everyone, not just a select few. And you see this as you get to the end point of the kingdom vision of eternity in Revelation 7. It's another vision. After this, I looked, and there before me was a great multitude that no one could count, from every tribe, nation, language, and people. From every tribe, nation, language, and people, standing before the throne and before the Lamb, and they cried out in a loud voice, salvation belongs to our God who sits on the throne. Let's see what happens when Jesus encounters the faith of this Gentile man. Back to verse 6. Read verse 6. He was not far from the house when the centurion sent friends to say to him, Lord, don't trouble yourself, for I do not deserve to have you come under my roof. This is why I did not even consider myself worthy to come to you. But say the word, and my servant will be healed. For I myself am a man under authority, with soldiers under me. I tell this one, go, and he goes, and that one, come, and he comes. I say to this servant, do this, and he does it. When Jesus heard this, he was amazed at him, and turning to the crowd following him, he said, I tell you, I have not found such great faith even in Israel. Then the man who had been sent returned to the house and found the servant well. The centurion knows what it's like to have authority. He knows what it's like to give a command and then have it executed. Now, why is he saying that? I think it's his way of saying, Jesus, I know that you have serious authority. I have authority, but you have even more. I know that if you were to command your angels to heal my servant, it would happen. Say the word and it's done. Just like me with my men. But Jesus, you have the kind of powerful authority, even over life-threatening sickness. And the centurion is right, because Jesus does in fact heal the servant. And he does it without even being in the room. He does it from afar. That's the kind of power that Jesus has. Now, before we get to the main point of the passage, there's something we can draw from one of these smaller details. Did you catch that the centurion never actually meets Jesus? Nor does the sick man. At first, the centurion sends a delegation, and then as Jesus approaches, look at verse 6. So Jesus went with them. He was not far off from the house. He's still not at the house when the centurion sent friends to him to say, Lord, don't trouble yourself. And then he heals the servant from afar. He doesn't even make it to the house where the sick man actually is. Now, it's not the main point of the passage, but it's something to notice that then gets fleshed out across the rest of the New Testament. Connection to Jesus doesn't require Jesus to be physically present. Do you see that? Later, Jesus will send his Spirit to live in believers. He'll be with them, but it's not physical, it's spiritual. Now, if that seems like a straightforward thing, because you've maybe been a Christian for a while, just take note of how much that cuts against a very common human instinct. Because human instinct would say, if I can just get closer, like physically closer to something, to someone, then I'll be heard, then I'll be blessed, then I'll be in touch with the divine. If I can just be in this physical place, this beautiful church building, this mountaintop, this temple, this mosque, holy sites around the world, if I can be in this if I can just get close to these physical objects, rosary beads, relics, candles, statues, monuments, little physical idols. There's even this spiritual hype that people have being in close proximity to so-called spiritual people, Christian celebrities. I remember the hype when the Pope came to Australia years ago. Now, theologically, there is something off about these things. And part of what's off about it is that Jesus' presence and power are not manifested within particular physical parameters. Jesus' presence and power are not manifested within particular physical parameters. His presence and power are actually manifested in his word by his Spirit. His word and Spirit is where it's at. So here's the implication. You don't need to chase physical things, physical spaces in worship, in communion with God, in a search for closeness with God, in your search for being in touch with the divine. If you have your faith in Jesus, you have everything you need. You have his Spirit living inside you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. Now, I don't know what's going on in your life right now, but do you need this? This reminder that he has not left you as an orphan. Psalm 46, God is our refuge and strength and ever-present help. Ever-present in trouble. Therefore, we will not fear though the earth give way and the mountains fall into the heart of the sea, though everything hits the fan. The Lord Almighty is with us. Do you need that truth in your life right now? Jesus is with you. Let's zoom in on verse 9. Verse 9, key verse in the text. When Jesus heard this, he was amazed at him. And turning to the crowd following him, he said, I tell you, I have not found such great faith even in Israel. So the faith of this man even outdoes the faith that Jesus sees among the Jews. And here's where we get to wrestle with the issue of faith. We can talk together about some misunderstandings. It's great because Jesus has commended this guy's faith. And so we can look at this guy and go, what is faith? What is it that Jesus saw here that was commendable? And here's what we learn. Here's what faith is. Faith is entrusting yourself to a person. In this case, Jesus. Faith is entrusting yourself to a person. Think with me. Do you see the centurion recognizes who Jesus is, who he is as a person? He recognizes he's got the power and authority to help in this situation. That's the kind of person Jesus is. And he humbly entrusts himself to Jesus. And Jesus says, that's faith right there. Faith is entrusting yourself to a person. So, faith is not a feeling. It might be accompanied by feelings. But it's not in and of itself a feeling. If you have young children, I assume you provide every meal for them, and they just expect it, don't they? They assume it's just going to happen, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Why? Because of who you are. Their mum, their dad, their carer. They trust you. Their faith is in you. Now, what do they feel about the fact that you provide every meal for them? Not a lot. You wish they would feel gratitude, but they don't. Their faith is in you to provide their meals, whether they feel gratitude or not, whether they feel anything or not, because faith isn't a feeling. It's entrusting yourself to someone. Look, I know some of you struggle in the Christian life because you don't feel things. You might look at other Christians and they have faith. And you thought you had faith, but they have faith and they feel it. They feel things. And then you look again at your own life and maybe I don't have faith. Maybe I'm not even saved. Now, feelings are good. Don't hear me downplaying our feelings. We want to grow in our feelings of affection and joy in our relationship with the Lord. But hear this clearly. Your faith in the death of Jesus is what saves you. To be more precise, the death of Jesus saves you. And faith is the mechanism that God has ordained to apply that to yourself, to receive that gift of salvation. Faith is the key, not feelings. Don't let feelings or a lack of them make you doubt your salvation. Keep looking to Jesus. Keep entrusting yourself to Him. This clears up another thing. Faith is not wishful thinking. It's not the thing you have in the absence of evidence. Some people say it is. Richard Dawkins says that it is. He's a famous atheist. Got a quote from him up on the screen. Thanks, Nick. Faith is the great cop-out, the great excuse to evade the need to think and evaluate evidence. Faith is belief in spite of, even perhaps because of, the lack of evidence. Now, this might be what Richard likes to think faith is. It might be his definition, but this is not at all what the Bible means when it talks about faith. Biblical faith is grounded in reality. It's grounded in evidence. It's grounded in a person. You can pick this up from the centurion himself. Look back at verse 3. Look back at verse 3. The centurion heard of Jesus. He's heard of Jesus. Presumably, he's heard lots of things about Jesus because he sends some elders of the Jews to him asking him to come and heal his servant. That is a man who has evidence to suggest that Jesus could heal. Based on what he's heard about who this man is. Is it wishful thinking? No. Is there evidence upon which his faith relies? Yes. Now, just another little thought on this. Never be afraid to think as a Christian. Faith is not something you have as you leave your brain at the door and you stick your head in the sand. Ignore all the evidence. That's not what faith is. Never be afraid to think. Now, this is not a recommendation. Hear me? Not a recommendation, but there is an episode of Family Guy, adult cartoon. Stewie and Brian discover a remote that can zap them into an alternate reality, various alternate realities. And in one reality, people are flying around in jetpacks and floating cars, and every disease is healed instantly. And Brian asks Stewie, "Where are we?" And Stewie says, "It's our town." And here's the quote: "But in this parallel universe, Christianity never existed, which means the dark ages of scientific repression never occurred, and thus humanity is 1,000 years more advanced." You see what they're suggesting? That Christianity is anti-science, anti-progress, anti-independent thinking. That critique is way off. Real faith is never something that you should contrast with thoughtfulness and evidence and critical thinking. Some of the smartest people in the world today are Christians. Some of the greatest minds across history have had no problem seeing their Christian faith as completely compatible with academic rigor. You might know some of these scientific names. This isn't working, Nick, so I might need you to flick through for me. Copernicus. He said, "To know the mighty works of God, to comprehend the wonderful workings of his laws, surely all this must be a pleasing and acceptable mode of worship to the Most High." Galileo, next one. "The glory and greatness of Almighty God are marvelously discerned in all his works." Kepler. "Geometry is unique and eternal, a reflection of the mind of God. That men are able to participate in it is one of the reasons why man is an image of God." Newton, Isaac Newton. "The most beautiful system of the sun, planets, and comets could only proceed from the counsel and dominion of an intelligent, powerful being." Some of the greatest minds across history. Did you know historically it was Christianity that gave rise to universities? And hospitals and charities. Biblical Christianity encourages serious thinking. The idea that faith is somehow opposite to facts, that is not factual. Don't believe it when people say it. Now, all of this clears up another confusion. Faith is sometimes thought of as something you're born with. And you'll hear this in things people say. Someone might say, "I wasn't really born with a faith like you were." Or, "I was born with an Anglican faith, and so I'm an Anglican." Now, implied in that is this idea that it's a bit set in stone. Like, if you were born with your faith and I wasn't born with a faith, then, that's great that you've got that, but I don't have it. Coming back to our passage, what actually is faith? It's entrusting yourself to a person. In this case, Jesus. That is a choice, isn't it? That's a choice. That's something you weigh up. Just like if you were to trust me, or if I was to trust you. It's a choice you make. It's a choice I make. There's nothing particularly mystical about this. There's nothing particularly impossible about it. There's nothing set in stone about it. It's your choice. Do you want to have faith in Jesus? That is, do you want to entrust yourself to Jesus? That's what Christians mean when they say, "I gave my life to Jesus." What they mean is they've entrusted their life, their decisions, their actions, their whole self, their life, they've entrusted it to Jesus. Now, have you made that choice? Have you made that choice? to put your faith in Jesus. Now, it doesn't need to be a dramatic experience, and I do think it can be a choice that's made over time, not necessarily in an instant, but it's still a choice. Have you made that choice? It's okay if you haven't. It's okay if you haven't yet. But just be clear. Be clear in your mind. Have I made the choice to put my faith in Jesus? Now, if you're weighing this up, and part of being here this morning is to kind of think through this exact thing, where am I at? Then join us for the Discover series. It's not too late to jump in for the next 5 weeks, a couple of hours each session. We'll talk together about all the basics. And you can think this through, slowly, carefully. Think it through. Again, we want to think about these things. Now, there's one more thing in our passage that's worth pointing out, and it helps us to think about whether or not I would want to have faith in Jesus. It's the miracle. We kind of glossed over it in a sense, haven't we? It was a miracle. Jesus healed the servant. The man was about to die. And Jesus healed him in an instant. That's the kind of authority and power that Jesus has. Now, here's the thing about healing ministry in the life of Jesus. The healings are not primarily there as examples of what Jesus will do for you if you put your faith in him. That's how some people treat Jesus. They'll say, have faith in Jesus and he will heal you. He will cure your disability. He will take away that mental health problem. That's not what the healings of Jesus are here to help us with. The healings of Jesus are here to give us a preview into his kingdom, which is actually much bigger and better than any physical healing he could give you right now, as good as that may be. Healings in the life of Jesus preview the kingdom, which was initiated at his first coming and will be completed at his second coming. His kingdom in which there will be healing for everyone and everything. Jesus is taking this world somewhere. He's taking this world to be a kingdom where there is no more sickness or mourning or crying or pain. It'll all be done away with. How does that make you feel? Every believer will be healed, restored, physically, emotionally, relationally, mentally, spiritually, comprehensively. The kind of healing that Jesus foreshadows in miracles like this is a healing that is so comprehensive that even creation itself is healed from its bondage to decay. The healings in the Gospels, and any healing that you experience today, whether that be miraculous or otherwise, it all points to a bigger reality that Jesus has secured by his death and resurrection. Listen to this, Isaiah 53 verse 5, he was pierced for our transgressions, he was crushed for our iniquities. The punishment that brought us peace was on him, and here it is, by his wounds we are healed. Jesus experienced the wound of death. Jesus experienced the wound of death on a cross. Jesus experienced the wound of death as a punishment for sin. So that when you put your faith in Jesus, he guarantees your complete and comprehensive healing when he comes again to inaugurate his kingdom in its glory. Is your faith in Jesus?